And we are live. So, hey, Internet. I'm Kaylee, and welcome to my channel. I do lives like this, where tonight we're talking about the Netflix series Shadow and Bone. And with me, I have my cousin, Megan, from the Instagram MeganLeighannReads. And then I also have my friend, Christina, from the YouTube channel Read.Pray.Disney. And their links will be down below, so make sure to check those out. Really quickly, before we get into this, let's just talk about, like, Megan, did you read the series before you watched it?
My goal was to read all 3 books before the Netflix show came out, and I only got through 1. But I got through 1. And then I watched the series like 3 days after I finished book 1, and it was a very interesting dynamic at that point, because I avoided all trailers, I avoided everything, and then I just read the book, and then I started episode 1, and very cool the way that it was like basically just from the book to the TV. It was so good.
I felt like it was pretty similar for sure. But Christina, you have not read the book. Now,
no.
Are you one of those though? Okay, because I'm one of those people that is like mixed on it, and I feel like I'm either way. I'm cool either way. But some people are sticklers about you have to read the book before the show. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you usually like to read the book before the show, or are you kind of what is your thoughts on that?
So for me, there are certain series of books that I will want to read ahead of time. But I will say for this series, I feel like, and I could be totally wrong, but I feel like it's almost true to the book. Like, I feel like it's kind of sticking with the story. And I didn't mind, only because I had so much going on my plate, as far as reading goes. And like I was telling you guys backstage, I tend to check out books through my library. So I like to write my audiobooks through my online library, and they didn't have this series. I try to steer from buying them through Audible and so forth. So I would have listened to it and then watched it, but I didn't get a chance to do that. So I just watched it, but I'm liking what I'm watching, and which is what making me want to go back and read the book. So yeah, like when it was Game of Thrones, like I was fine. Let me just watch the series and I'm good. And then maybe I'll go back because it was so dense. But this one, I like the series so far. Yeah.
Yeah. I felt like it was very, very similar. And, I feel like Megan's better maybe to talk about the differences, and we won't get too much into that since Christina hasn't read the book. But
it's all good.
I will say the biggest difference that really shocked me was the fact that the entire first episode was basically the first chapter of the book, and I was like, oh, okay, and that's basically it. It kind of expands on that first chapter and kind of goes before it, But I was like, I got to the end of episode 1 and I was like, oh, okay, that was chapter 1. This is going to be intriguing to see how they,
especially after they finished episode 1, I was worried at that point because I knew that they were going to introduce Six of Crows as well into the story. And I'm like, how are they going to fit everything? And then they also gave Mal a POV, which Mal did not have a POV in the book. And so I'm like, how are they going to fit everything?
And the crows,
But I think they did it really well. Obviously, there are slight changes, when the Darkling took Alina from the camp in Ravka to Little Palace. That was a whole week-long trek in the book. In the show, they made it look like they just rode there in a couple hours. And so they sped it up a little bit in small moments like that, where you didn't really feel like when you were watching it that they were changing a whole lot. So they sped it up a little bit to make Alina's story a little bit smaller. But yeah. Did you think that there were many changes, Kaylee, because you just watched the show? It's been a couple of weeks for me.
Yeah. I didn't feel like there was. I feel like you said, I feel like they definitely did have to make Alina's role smaller in a sense, because they did have so much added. So we didn't get as much stuff with Alina training. We didn't get as much stuff with Alina and Genya. So we didn't get as much of that, and it just seemed a little bit more rushed. You didn't see their friendship build as much as you do in the book. So I feel like in the book, you kind of like Genya a little bit more, and you kind of have more of a connection with her versus in the show. And I think, to me, I think her betrayal was worse in the book. I mean, it wasn't like a betrayal, you know what I mean? Like, she kind of was impassive about it and just kind of was like trying to ignore that it was an issue.
Yeah, that was definitely something I thought about, because you were, I think, a lot more shocked in the book when Genya came in and was like, oh yeah, no, I'm siding with, you know, the Darkling. It was much more of a shock in the book, because you had spent a lot of time with Alina being very standoffish with Genya at the beginning, because she didn't know if she could trust anybody in Little Palace. And Genya was kind of mean. I mean, she was very mean at the beginning. And then both of them warmed up to each other, and they became a really great friendship. And I think that made that at the end of the book much more like, whoa, Genya is obviously choosing a side at this point. But yeah, what did you think, Christina? Like, having not read the book, did you see any of these?
That's where it was, and you guys hit it, because like from not knowing any of the other backstory, obviously not reading the book, what I noticed was when the betrayal happened, it seemed like Elena was so distraught about it. Like, it seemed like a heavier emotion than what the situation called for at the time. So it made me wonder, was there more that I missed? You know, did I fall asleep at some point?
Yeah.
So what happened? But that makes sense though now, because they left it, because it was a really strong moment in the series that and it was like, but we've only seen her 2 or 3 times, and it didn't seem like it was much that was happening.
Yeah, there was an entire storyline throughout it where Genya had a crush on David pretty much throughout the entire book. And David had been in the series a couple of times, and they had a couple of moments where Genya was the one being like, okay, can we please talk to each other and whatnot.
Okay,
and Alina,
he's the guy that came in, right? Like, he was the guy, and literally, it was a moment. Like, it was only like, what, a few seconds?
I think that's why they tried to sum up that whole storyline. Yeah, they tried to sum up that whole storyline in like that one little moment, just to kind of help you as a viewer be like, yeah, they have a thing, but like it's not really a thing, you know?
It was very awkward.
Yeah, it was very awkward. It was very awkward, but like, but yeah, I think that's kind of what they were trying to do. They were trying to sum up little sections throughout it, but that was something I wish that they kind of would have expanded a little bit upon. But I get, like, they were pressed for time because they had a lot they had to include in episodes. One thing that I mentioned to Kaylee that I had been kind of teasing over the past couple of days, we've been preparing for this, and we were just texting about it last night. I think my biggest hang up as far as changes go is someone behind the scenes made a decision to make everyone in the story more likable, and down to even some of the villains being more likable. And they changed decisions that people made and events that happened. And one that I can think of right now is Zoya. In the book, Zoya actually threw Alina back and broke her ribs in the story, and Alina had to be in the infirmary for multiple days. Whereas in the show, they made her fall back into a pile of hay. And so they were trying to make like certain events lighter in the story to make characters more likable faster. And I think that was a little bit to their detriment, because as someone who hasn't read the book, you're not going to feel the same amount of emotions as you would towards someone. They never specifically said it, but I'm pretty sure that Mal also slept with Zoya at the beginning of the book. Yeah, he did. And in the show, they like cut that out.
Let's just give Christina her moment.
Oh my God! I don't believe it.
Yes, they had an entire moment. They had an entire moment where like Mal came and woke Alina up in her tent and was like, yeah, me and the boys are going to go try and sleep with the Grisha girls. Like, see you later.
Let me just tell you, Christina, your poor heart, if you do read the series, your poor heart. In the beginning, Mal is different, okay? Yes. Mal is different than the beginning. He is more like, the vibe I got from it is like Alina was a bit more like, she thought more about Mal and was more like sentimental, I guess you could say, towards Mal in the beginning. And Mal was kind of like, he had his people and he did his own thing. And like, you know, there was still that like family sense there, but like, I definitely don't think, and there's a quote in the show that I think was something about like, he didn't fully appreciate her before or something he does now.
Yeah,
and I think that was like a perfect sum up of how he was in the book.
That was something. That was something that, like, the moment when she was found out as the Sun Summoner, that was one scene I kind of wish they hadn't changed so much, was in the military camp, because Mal had been taken and he didn't even see Alina before she was being carted away. He was brought in as a witness, like, in the book, and he was there. He looked like he was just, like, been completely, I mean, battered and beaten. And Alina was worried that he was borderline dead. I mean, the emotions in that scene were a lot more heightened. And so when you did see her show off her abilities, Mal was even more taken aback. And it was a big moment for the two of them, seeing how different things had become at that point, that the emotions were rising much more. And the Darkling immediately, they didn't even have a chance to talk. He just took her, sent her off, and she was immediately thrown into a carriage and then carted away. And that was the last time that Alina had even seen Mal. She had seen him he could have died within an hour. Like, she had no idea. But in the show, they had him, like, running after her, and you didn't know what was going on. There's small things like that I do prefer the scenes in the book rather than the show. But it's just for, like, emotion building, like we were talking about earlier, like, just building of emotions.
And that's okay. So I will say this: watching the series, I was never really comfortable. I mean, I like Mal, but something I was like, I preferred her with the Darkling. Like, I preferred her with the Darkling. I was like, please, yes, let's get that. I want that. Because Mal is too good.
Kaylee doesn't agree with us.
We can go ahead and transition to topic point number 1. This may take the whole hour. Mal versus the Darkling versus Alina's.
Listen, Christina, this is like reason number 1 that you should read the book rather than the show, because as much as I absolutely love the Darkling in the show, and I will say that he is probably my favorite character in the show, because Ben Barnes just did an absolutely incredible job playing that character. I do like his character in the book better than in the show.
Really? Oh,
he had a bigger personality in the show. He was much more quippy. They actually kissed at a completely different time than in the book than in the show. It was much more like, I don't know, he was, I guess, more manipulative in the book, and he was a much more dynamic character for me. I personally just loved the ride of it. Like, I knew while reading the book, I knew who the character was. You know, the story's been out for years, but I loved every minute of it. I'm like, I know you're a bad guy, but I love you so much.
Oh my God.
And I also knew that there was a lot of hate on Mal, and that was one thing I think that there was the reason why they made some of the changes that they did in the TV show, because they wanted people to like Mal more than other people who read the book did.
Well, let me ask you guys this, because this is something that I like to. One of the reasons why I do prefer to read the books before the movies or shows or anything is because when I paint a picture of a character in my mind, and I'm just gonna small caveat like Twilight, those weren't my vampires. Like those weren't my people in my head. How well do you guys think that the Netflix series transitioned with, bringing to fruition these characters? Do they look like the people from the?
Hands down, in my opinion, yes. I think that they did a fantastic job. I know there was a lot of wondering on what Alina was going to be like, because obviously Alina was white in the book, and now she's Asian in the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
it seems like a big point in the show that
I think they purposely changed it to make it, and I really liked that they did that. I thought it added a lot to the show. It added a lot, I thought.
It makes more sense to me that she would have been half Shu. I think for some reason, and I understand why Leigh Bardugo didn't want to write from an Asian girl's perspective, being a white girl herself. I think that was probably where her train of thought was going. But for the show, I think that it makes a lot more sense. In the story, you're reading about her feeling more, like an outcast. You read about her, even down to her having like sunken eyes, and they made those slight transitions to make it into, I think, a much more impactful story that I loved that addition to the show. I think that it was really well done. I think it was a good story plot.
So was the race issue such a big thing in the series as they're making it out and to be in the show? with all of
it
the
might no.
It was not in the first book. I mean,
okay.
because it wasn't, yeah, in the first book at all. It was not. It was
No.
not. It was more the only, I think, they kind of would talk about a little bit like, you know, her being an orphan and stuff like that was kind of like the class issue, I think, was about the only thing they really tackled. But I definitely think it was the right decision.
Well, see, to me, that's what I still don't understand how they did it in the way. That's one of the points from the show that I can't still wrap my head around. What spurned all the hatred of all the different nations or countries? Like,
see, that's something.
I don't get.
Yeah, that's actually something that my sister brought up to me, because she came to me because she hasn't read the books either, and she's like, now why is there a racism in this world? Like, you think with being stuck so close together, when you look at the map, like, why is there this and this and this? And I do think that was the biggest fault, having introduced the storyline. They should have introduced a little bit more backstory on why that is the way that it is in this world. They should have world build a little bit more if you're going to introduce a storyline like that. I hope that they will in later in season 2. I actually see, just having read the first 100 pages of book 2, there's plenty of different moments that they could introduce that just within a couple of comments, maybe here or there. I think that it would be easy for them to do that. So I'm hoping that, because I know that that is a criticism they've gotten over season 1, that they will take that opportunity to give that backstory, because that is something that I feel like they lacked a little bit more explanation on that. But there actually was a scene that I read that they cut out of the story, that when Alina had escaped from Little Palace and was on her own, she ran into a church and she saw that this mosaic had been created in her honor, and it described this white-skinned, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl being the Sun Summoner. And it was kind of I love moments that they don't have to explain anything to showcase, like, a statement. And I hate that they cut out that scene, because I feel like that would have been a really impactful scene. So I read about that online, and I feel like I wish they would have kept that in there. But yeah,
I agree. Not to go back to the Darkling versus Mel debate. Yes, and I want to give Christina her fair share to flail over the Darkling. Like, I love to flail. However, Katie points out, I know Kaylee loves her bad boys, which is normally true. But you know what I've discovered about my taste in couples is that I actually apparently typically go against, like, the grain. So, like, if everyone likes this one couple, I'm usually the opposite.
Please don't say that. Please don't say that.
I do like Alina and Mel together. I do. I like Alina and Mel together. I did. I liked them in the book together. I like them in the show together. I do. And I didn't in the book, I will say this, and I said this in my book review. I do not love triangles, but I did appreciate and I did enjoy the Darkling versus Mal love triangle in the book, because and in the show too, but I kind of knew, once you read the book, you're like, oh, you know how it's gonna go. But I did like it. I did like the Darkling. I'm just on team Mal. Okay. I am. I like Mal. They have this history. They're anyways, I don't know. I like what I like, but
enemies to lovers all day long. Okay. Well, all day long.
You guys know me. You know how I am. This is a very kind of out of the norm feeling for me, but it is what I mean, the ship has sailed, it's gone, and that's just, I'm on that.
Here's why I don't like Mal, or this is why I don't like that, because he, at least, okay, y'all know a whole lot more as far as the book version, but from a viewer watching the show for the first time, my problem was, dude, you never made a move. There was opportunity after opportunity. Shoot your shot already. And he never did. And that is what that pains. He is, putting himself in harm, getting shot, stabbed, everything else for this girl who's already making out with the Darkling. All you had to do was make a move. And he still wouldn't. And that's what bothers me, is he's too goody two shoes. And I think that's where I probably would appreciate the book a lot more, because in this series, like he's way too goody two shoes. Like I don't know if he's that perfect.
I mean, he makes. I'm a lot like you. I don't like goody two shoe characters. That's why I feel like you would really love reading the book because just even something I complained to Kaylee last night. The end episode is not my favorite. It's probably my least favorite episode because it's the most different. And one of those things, you know, like what you're saying, like with Mal, like make a move. I felt like the ending of book 1 was much more impactful between Alina and Mal and made you connect to them more because he was used as a prisoner, as bait from the Darkling to make Alina do what needed to be done by the end. Like he wasn't just a castaway that snuck on board or anything. I mean, he was in prison for days. I mean, he was treated horribly and you've really felt for him and because he had gone through so much to get to her. And he had one thing that they done that they kissed in the book and they didn't in the show. They cut that out. Didn't they cut that out? Because they didn't kiss in the show. You just watched it, Kaylee.
Are we talking about the Darkling?
No, Mal.
Are we talking about Mal?
Yeah, they didn't
kiss.
I
don't think they kissed.
Yeah, well, they kissed in the book.
The Darkling and her kissed a good chunk of the show.
Yeah.
They did. Yeah.
I did enjoy this. He was hot. I did text Megan because this is like I had 2 episodes left. And I was like, oh, like
to Ben Barnes.
I was like, you know, I mean, I like the Darkling and stuff, but like I'm feeling it even less than I was in the book. I think because, you know, once I choose my ship, I mean, it's over. It's over in my heart. Like I'm a faithful shipper. Okay. I am faithful. But anyway.
I need you to jump ship.
I can't do it. But I did text Megan. I'm like, he's hot. I'll give him that. He is.
And I didn't notice until like the second episode 6 where his eyes are actually black. Like were they all the way black? I feel like they were black out of anger.
Even my dad commented on that. He's like, his eyes are so dark.
Yeah. I did appreciate the and we might get this as well, like in the future books. I don't know because it's not in book 1, but I did appreciate like the little flashback scene to like show kind of how the fold was created and give him a little bit more of like that humanity.
That wasn't in the book. I was shook when that showed up.
Yeah, I was too. I was like, this was not. Now it might be in like 2 or 3 or something like that, but like it was not in book 1. I will say, and they could be in future books because I know there is a quote that Kaz says, and it is he says the same quote that's in the second Six of Crows book. So, I mean, it could definitely get thrown in there.
They're piecing things together because Six of Crows happens like 7 years after the final Shadow and Bone book.
I definitely don't think they'll wait.
They're like piecing.
But this show did because I've read a little of Six of Crows because, you know, we'll talk about Kaz and Ned in a minute. But I read a little bit of Six of Crows, and it really, really, really sets it up so nicely. Like all the stuff with Matthias and Nina and just it just sets it up very beautifully to like have all the characters there. So I think because even like Matthias, like where he is at the beginning of Six of Crows book is where he's at the end of this. So like his character is already set up for the next one. So I imagine though we'll have it like I don't know if they're gonna. I wouldn't think they would split up series and have like an individual Six of Crows series. I'd imagine just eventually that story will get worked into a season. But I don't know.
I can see them. I think at this point, because they have combined both series at this point, that I think people would be disappointed not to see these characters return in season 2. Yeah, and I think that they're going to have to find a way to like mirror the stories to be happening at similar times.
I think they already are. Like a lot of the Six of Crows stuff is already in there.
Yeah.
So I definitely think they've set it up in a way that is going to follow at least to a good extent, the Six of Crows books at some point, if not like the next season and probably like, I don't know, like I was telling Megan, they set it up right. They can have several seasons.
Yeah. There's potential. I mean, even for spinoff a little bit, like there's potential all through. You know, whenever you're ready to pick up on Nina and Matthias, you know, I'm there.
Okay, I could tell you had some thoughts. Go ahead. What are your thoughts? We'll start with you.
Okay. Oh my God, I love them.
They're amazing.
I loved it. Out of all of the couples in the whole series, those two gave me the most feels. Like those two, from the moment he went down there, when she was captured on the ship and he's trying to feed her, and you're like, well, hold on, guy, why are you trying to feed? All of that to getting into the fur bed and she's like, you're nothing. Oh, yes, you are very different. All of that. And then, oh my God, I'm sorry. And it hurt me. It hurt me so much that he hated the way they left it, that he hated her so much. Which to me, hopefully, because you have so much hate, you had to me, when a character has that much hate, you had to have had that much love at some point. Like they're two sides of the same coin. Yes. Which is why I like how they put that little bit about the Darkling in there. Was that his sister? I know I just jumped a whole different thing, but was that his sister?
I took it as like the healer. I took it as his romantic interest, but I could be completely wrong.
Okay.
It could have been
I didn't catch that completely, so I wasn't.
I took it as his romantic interest as well, and I remember that.
I just didn't want to see him with anyone else. Maybe that's really
Same.
what it was.
I was like, okay.
I was too distracted by his hair the whole time. I'm like, how does he get those braids?
I shipped them. That's the preferable ship for the Darkling.
You're like, Kaylee's like, I don't like him so much. I'm gonna ship him with his dead love interest.
No,
that's done with.
I thought they were cute. I liked them. I will say, this is like, we'll get back to the couples. I just want to say, we were talking briefly, and I meant to mention this when we were talking about like, do they look like what you imagine them, and like from the book. And honestly, like I'm different, I think, than a lot of people in the sense that, like, obviously once I see a movie or a show based on a book, like whatever that character looked like is in my head. Yeah. But then beforehand, like I have like a vague idea, but it like doesn't upset me if they look different. What upsets me is if their name is pronounced differently than I originally planned it. AKA in the Hunger Games, when I pronounced it Johanna and then they pronounced it Johanna, and I about scratch my eyeballs out. But anyways,
I understand
neither here nor there. But the one character, I had a very distinct look in my brain, and it was so different than what I imagined, was Bagra. And I don't know why. I saw her as like this really old lady in my brain.
What?
I
thought she was pretty right on.
I don't know. I just remember like reading, because sometimes I'm bad about like, I'll get into a story and I won't read all the other stuff if it's not dialect. Like I try to, but then I just get to going. And all I remember seeing was like the skin is pulled real tight over her cheekbones. So I just like imagined this like older lady with really big, tight cheekbones. And I don't know. I just saw Bagra and I literally went, oh, what?
I'll tell you what, I did not expect David to look like what he looks like, but I love his actor so much, because I've watched the Three Musketeers show multiple times, and he plays a main character in that show, and knowing who his actor is, I can't wait for him to have a bigger role in the story. I'll never forget the scene where he just sticks out his finger, and you can see Ben Barnes tries not to laugh. You can tell. Like,
that was funny. That was hilarious. Yeah.
It cracked me up. Oh my God.
He's like, you don't have to race.
I was crying. I was laughing so hard.
Yeah.
It was so good.
So to transition back into couples and into what Megan knows, because I've flailed about them, they are probably my favorite couple. And that is Kaz and Inej. And I really, really love them. And I've already been reading this is where I like spoiled myself. I've been reading their stuff from Six of Crows. And I have, it's so good though. It's so good. I couldn't help myself. It was so good. And, I needed it. But I loved them this show. And I felt like the show did a really good job of like, because I've read like their stuff in Six of Crows, most of it. And I feel like, you know, we get some of that development and that backstory, but I also feel like it didn't break too much into what we see in Six of Crows. So I think there's still more. I mean, if they don't choose to go this route, I mean, I will throw hands. I'm telling you now, I will throw hands if they do not go this. If this is, I don't care. You can have Alina and the Darkling, and I'll be like, studio. Okay. If they want to do Alina and the Darkling, so be it. I will be okay. If they do not have Kaz and Inej, I will be upset. That's the only couple I'm like, I will be upset.
I wasn't sure about them at first. It wasn't until like, was it the last episode? I think it was. Like, I wasn't sure. Like, I just,
you know what is so funny? It's so funny about that is that my mom is a huge Matthias and Nina fan, and she wasn't sure about Kaz and Inej either. And it's so funny that you have the exact same opinion, because I think it's two very different dynamics in their relationship. And I think for a lot of people reading Kaz and Inej, some people are a little turned off by Kaz's like very mean approach to things, and they're a little bit more like, I don't know if I like this. This seems a little strange. Inej kind of following after him, and then you find out those backstories and their relationship, and you start to warm up to them more. And of course, through Kaz's development, you see more of their story. By the time you know, I don't want to give any spoilers or anything. My mom did like them, so she did eventually. But yeah,
good Ginger, good job.
Yes.
Okay. Well, hold on. Okay, what was the other guy in Six of Crows? What was his name? The
Jesper.
Yeah, Jesper. I need Jesper and the goat to come back. Like, I
love the goat. What was the goat's name? He named the goat. What was the goat's name?
Oh, it started with an M. Huh?
Wasn't he? Did he just name it Bait?
No.
Oh no. He said, "I need this." Maybe he did. I thought he said Nate or something.
It started.
He's like, "I need this. I need it back." When they were like on the skiff at the end.
But wasn't it the same goat that freed Mal? Was that the same goat?
Yeah, it was the same goat. That he had the bullet wrapped around his
collar.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering. I was like, oh, this goat, he's a little magical. Okay. I love the goat. I love the goat.
I
need to go back to Kaz and Inej for a minute. I need to flow for just a hot second, because I just love them. Okay, and I knew, and you know, I'm with couples. Okay, with couples, there are certain couples it takes me a while to warm up to, and like Mal and Alina in general were two characters that honestly, like, because I watched half of episode 1 before I read the book, and I was not into the whole. I was just like kind of bored with their storyline. And I was instantly into Kaz, because something about him, that actor, he was so good. And I just went to that character, and I immediately was like, I'm just in this character. And then I knew from like episode 1 as well, before I even knew anything about the books, that scene where like she comes and like is telling him about you know, everything going on, and she's telling him about another girl in the menagerie, and he's like, no, you know, like, I only get one of a kind, and like no one's like you. And I was like, oh, I'm in already. That was the moment. Episode 1, I was already in for the long haul, and from what I've read, Six of Crows, I'm just it's it. So anyway,
I love, like, this may sound so weird, but like I just love broken characters. They're some of my most favorite to read about, because I just if I can read a book and I can feel happy and sad and angry all in the same story, those end up being like my top favorite books. Like emotional situations I absolutely love. And that is something hands down that Shadow and Bone does so well, is get you connected to storylines and connected to characters. And I appreciate the fact that I feel like Leigh Bardugo didn't hesitate to go down certain paths that other authors probably would have been a little bit more hesitant with, as far as like violence goes, and pushing characters to make very morally gray decisions. And I just really appreciated that. I think that was one thing about the show that I feel like they muddled a little bit, because like I said before, they tried to make everyone very likable. And like I said, the final episode was like the biggest deal for me, because people made very different decisions in that final episode. And what were your thoughts, Kaylee? Because I know we kind of slightly talked about it last night, but what was your thoughts?
I know. Well, so Megan had told me, she messaged me and she was like, the only thing I don't really like was this final episode. I don't even know if I liked any of the episode. And I was like, okay. So I get to the final episode and I'm like halfway through and I'm like, okay, like where is this part that Megan hates? And so I literally texted her. I'm like, what did you hate about this final episode? And she was basically saying, they kind of like make everyone more likable and they make everything a little less, which I won't spoil like everything that changes in the book, but there are just some changes and basically like the gravity of what people do. The one thing that I will say I didn't care for as much is I felt like Mal was more of a savior this last episode versus Alina maybe in that last book. And I didn't like that as much. But everything else, I mean, I didn't mind the changes. Personally, I thought they were good. I felt like Zoya was a change, right? Mm-hmm. For Zoya to have family. And I did like that change a lot because I really hate Zoya, but I did like that change. And I feel like they're going to do some changes with her character and make her maybe a little more likable. I have a feeling of where they're going to take it, but I don't know if I like where they're going to take it. You guys might like where they're going to take it, but I won't say anything. I read a spoiler before and I'm just not going to say anything.
You and those spoilers, Kaylee?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I
read it and I was like,
I did not like how it ended. I think what happened for me was that it was too drawn out. Whatever they were doing a skiff, like, can we get to it? It was just too drawn out. Like, I didn't understand why he needed to wait and stop. And, that it was just, and I guess really because there was so much buildup as far as just bringing down the wall, like just bring it down already, do something with it. And it just felt like it was a little firecracker that fizzed out.
Yep.
And she's like, well, I'll come back when I'm stronger. Well, how are you going to get stronger? You already sucked the bone thing inside of you. What else do you need?
See, that was one difference. That was a necklace in the book that wasn't in her at all. They changed that for the show.
Really?
But that was
I texted Megan and I said, ew, I hated that scene. That was my least favorite part. I hated that scene. If that was I couldn't do it. It was just so gross. And then I kept having to see it.
But see, that's one of the things that with the end of the book and in the book, there were decisions that were made by characters that were different. Alina made completely different decisions that I feel like were character developing, that changed the events. For example, the people on the ship were not aristocrats that were able to go see this happen. They were actual war officials that the Darkling wanted there to be a witness to what he was about to do, knowing that he was about to betray everybody. But I understand they had to fit the Six of Crows there somehow, so they made that change, but I preferred the book because it made a little bit more sense. Alina made war decisions in that moment that affected people's lives, and she made morally gray decisions, which I preferred because I feel like that she was the one who saves Mal. Like, she was the one who finally had to stick her feet in the ground and go, I'm going to make my decisions for myself here. And she turned on the Darkling. And no one else helped her do that. That was her. And so I just liked the way the book ended. For example, the whole military thing on the other side of the fold, that never existed in the book. That was just a bunch of women and children that the Darkling just killed. And it was much more, brutal. I mean, it was much more brutal. But it's one of those things that when you're reading it, that was such a character developing moment between Alina and the Darkling that going forward, I'm a little bit confused how they're going to get that same gravity between the two of them in season 2, having muddled out that ending. And that was the thing that I was confused about, more so for how they're going to move forward, not necessarily for what they changed. It's for future development. I was just kind of confused on how they're going to write that into it. But yeah, that was my biggest hang up with the show, was just the final episode and the character decisions that were changed.
I just didn't understand to what end is Alina and Mal, or where are they going to go? Like it's just, I don't, like everything else I was with. And so something y'all mentioned earlier, and I wanted to ask you guys, do y'all notice how like every time Alina, she needed like a death or to protect someone in order to push her? Did y'all notice that? Like, and it felt to me, speaking like to what Megan, you were just talking about, I feel like it just kind of made her a little weak of her character, because she just in order for her to get the light, to summon the light to begin with, she was protecting, and then it just seemed she needed to be pushed and pushed and pushed. And at some point, I was like, oh, okay, we get it.
That was something that they changed in the book. Alina knew about the amplifier. She knew all about the stag. She was the one who drew that sketch. She knew when the Darkling left Little Palace that he was going out looking for the stag. She had no idea Mal was involved. The Darkling did the whole time, but she had no idea. But she knew. That was the reason she was just sort of like there. Because every time Baghra would come in and she'd be like, hey, you need to learn how to summon the sun. She's like, but why would I have to? Because he's going to get this amplifier and then I can just do it with him later, because I mean the Darkling likes me and he can help me amplify my power with this stag bone, and that's fine.
So in the book, Baghra told her about the stag, or she knew from...
Baghra knew about it, but this conversation was a deal made between Alina and the Darkling. The Darkling used this as a way basically to tell... basically, the Darkling did not want Alina to learn how to use her power, because he didn't want her to be able to control it. Baghra was training Alina while the Darkling was gone on purpose, because she wanted Alina to be able to train and use her power. Yeah. So it was a whole thing.
Like he was like smitten before he even realized, oh, wait a minute, I could use the amplifier to just control her magic. Oh.
Yeah, Alina knew all about it. So when Alina went out and her and Mal met up with each other, Alina was like, we need to run. And Mal was the one who was like, we need to go after the stag and we need to stop running. And so they made the decision to go together to go look for the stag, because she had already known about it as well. And so, that was something that makes more sense now with why she was just sort of like, oh, I'm just going to, live my life until something like that happened. Because in the book, she was under the impression summoning the sun is just too hard. I haven't been able to do it my entire life. I can just use this amplifier. Until she realized, she had the emotion of Mal to push her to actually realize, hey, I actually can do this on my own. In the book, she did use the gloves that David made her. In the show, they made her not use those. She did it on her own. I think that was a way of like progressing her development faster.
Right.
But yeah. To answer your question,
I'm still Team Darkling and Alina, though. I haven't changed. I'm on that ship.
I'll be there. I'll be there until the ship is sunk.
I can't say I get it, and I mean but that's strange for me, because I do normally go for like I don't know, like I'm like I just normally go for that kind of pairing, but I'm just not. I don't know. Can't explain it. But moving on, I do have a few questions. I sent you guys some questions that we basically talked about, some of our thoughts on the couples and things like that and the twists and whatever. But I wanted to ask what your favorite like main character from the show was. And I'll start with Christina. I feel like you did already say what yours was, but I'll let you elaborate on why.
I mean, I'm gonna have to go bad boy. I liked the Darkling, like until Matthias showed up. It
was Darkling. Matthias.
Then Matthias showed up and his little self, like But no, as far as story goes, I was really there with him, and here's the reason why I liked him is because it's that same old trope of. I'm doing the wrong thing, but for the good reason, like he was trying to protect his people. Did he lose his way after a certain point? Well, obviously, heck yeah. I still think he's redeemable. And I think that he's going to be able to, without knowing the books or anything, I think he's going to be able to, I think because he's so, I think something that the show made clear was that one of the reasons why he attached on to Alina so much is not just because she's the sun summoner, but because she is another part of him. It's sort of that yin and yang effect. Like, you need the darkness and you need the light, and essentially they're immortal. So I think that aspect of it really made him latch on to Alina before he realized what he can do with her power. And that's what that's where my thought is going with him. I really feel like he is going to be able to turn himself around, because ultimately everything he was doing was just to protect the Grisha. So I think he's still my favorite. He's making stupid choices, but that's for me, in my mind, that's leading to even a grander return. So,
see, for me, I completely agree with Christina. I think she hit the nail on the head exactly with my same opinions on it. I love watching characters lose everything and then realize the what they did wrong, like the error of their ways. Like I love redemption stories so much, and I think that's why I'm so attracted to his character, because there are so many moments. I think that's why Ben Barnes does such a good job playing his character, because he can add hundreds of years into a look. Like, you really just hang on to everything that he says and does, and the way he looks at someone from across the room, and you're just like so with it. You're like, just look somewhere. I want to know what else I can read off of you. Like, that's what you do the whole time. And so every time he was in a scene, I think he just captured the whole the wardrobe. Can we just the wardrobe designer?
They did an excellent job. Excellent job. Yeah.
Amazing. Just the way his cloak looked.
I believe every piece. I believe
everything. Oh my gosh, it was absolutely incredible the way that every part of the show just made this world so believable. But with his character, I appreciated also knowing a little bit more about his backstory than we even got in the book. That was really eye-opening for me to see him. And like what you said, to see him, I think the best villains are ones that you can understand where they came from.
Yeah.
And you get where he came from, even though you may not agree with the way that he's going about it. You understand. Like, okay, I see where you went the wrong way. And for that, like, I think that's the reason I feel like, again, you would really enjoy reading the book, because he shows a lot more of personality in the book, of a much more like younger soul in the book, with more like jokes and moments with Alina where you can see, like what you were saying, almost a friendship forming before he was even romantically interested. Like, I love reading into things, and I really do believe there was a moment in the book where he saw something more with their story than what he originally intended. I do think he originally intended to use her, but then their relationship grew. And obviously Bagra came in and said, you need to get out of here. So then it ruined everything.
Did you say, Megan, that there was something there that wasn't there before?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I had to these references. I'm sorry.
Maybe that's why I love it so much. Because that's like my favorite Disney movie. Maybe that's why I love it so much.
Okay.
Kaylee's just like, Mal.
I'm over here and I'm trying to be like, oh, I'm just like the buzzkill of this Darkling and Alina chat, which is so weird because I am like the person that's like, you know, usually on that side. And I think what it is, I did like the Darkling in the book. And I liked him in the show. I thought, obviously, I mean, very attractive man, very attractive. And I thought all of his scenes were really well done. It comes down to me, like, I think he did have some feelings for Alina, a connection with Alina that was genuine. Yeah, I do. But I also think there was like, I don't know. Okay, part of it is seeing that darn part in the TV show with the stag. I can't. Would you want to date a guy that made you wear that? I'm sorry.
So that was something that even Lee Verdugo came out before the show was officially released, and she said to people, like, I don't think anyone's really going to ship Alina and the Darkling after having watched this, because those are things that they did change. They just took two antlers and, you know, put them together in the book, and that was all it was. In the show, they made it much more horrible in a way. And I mean, I think that she's probably surprised by how many people are still like, the Darkling and Alina.
You too. Jeez, did you not see those things? I'm sorry. It could be like Kaz or Mal or whoever. Yeah, I'd be like, sorry, I'm out. These are not these. This is not a future relationship for me.
I just love being attached to just the story, and I just think again that was something that made me even more so attached to their entire dynamic, their storyline, the path that those two characters are on. How is this going to affect the next scene that they're going to be in together? What happens if they reunite, after this? I think that it just continually adds on interest with me, and that's the reason why it's awful, it's terrible. I'm not definitely not defending that, but I'm still very interested in their story and how it's going to progress. Because let's not forget that Jinya also ditched. She also ditched.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there could be redemption for the Darkling, and I'm not against that. And I'm not saying I'm against the Darkling in the long. I feel like he did enough for me in this one book and this one season for me to be like, my ship has sailed for Alina and Mal. The ship cannot return. It is out. It is to sea.
In Kaylee's defense, he confessed his love in the book, and he put it all out there. And in the show, they didn't really match that. I feel like in the show they made it. I feel like he was more in love with Alina in the show. It showed more, I think, in his actions and like the way he was. But I mean, I liked Mal in both of them. I don't know. I get why people don't like Mal. I mean, it's the same reason. I mean, well, I won't get into the whole Ron, Hermione, Draco situation. But it's just saying, like, I do understand. Like, I do understand both sides. I do. But getting back to the question, because I mean, we could talk all night. This could be a whole show about that. It's hard. We should call it Ship Wars, and we just kind of with me and Christina gang up on Kaylee and be like, Mal, no.
Yeah, I'm pro Mal because I think he's a healthier choice, given that he won't put antlers in her body.
I mean, I have to give that to you.
I mean, that is one point.
I have some points here, but anyways, I'm sorry, y'all. It's fair. It's a fair ship. I love all shipping.
Antlers, though, being it now, if he hadn't done that, well, no, because the stag did. No, I was gonna say if he hadn't done that, she wouldn't have all this power. But she already had it because the stag gifted it to her. Oh, that doesn't. Okay.
I'll let you marinate on that thought. But I have a hard time picking a favorite character because I really do like all the characters a lot. I predict my favorite character in the long run is going to be Kaz. I just feel like he is going to be my favorite once they get down the road. Because I love complex characters that I like him because he's one of those characters that like you really have to look at his body language. You really have to look at his eyes. He doesn't say a whole lot emotion wise, but like you have to really look at him.
I does.
I will say this. There was a look, because I hadn't read Six of Crows before I watched the show, so I didn't know anything. And I knew from my mom that this was going to be backstory instead of the actual book of Six of Crows. So I went into it completely blind, aside from just the fan arts I'd seen and people shipping who and what, whatnot. But he had a look in the first episode when he learned about the Sun Summoner. And of course, all of this is, made up because this didn't happen in the books. But when they said Alina Starkov, he looked immediately like he recognized that. And I thought for sure, I even turned to my mom. I'm like, does he know Alina? Does he know her family of some sort? And mom didn't know at the time either. She couldn't really answer the question for me. So I'm like, that was just so strange. Like what you're talking about as far as looks go. I really read into that, and then it never came back. And so it may have just been something completely different. Maybe he just realized they had a name that actually confirmed that the Sun Summoner was real. Maybe that's what they were trying to get at. But I really read into that, and it never came back.
When Alexi said the name.
Yeah.
I just think that whole scene was a lot. It was a lot. And having a name to put to it, I don't know. But I think I would say he's not my favorite character this season, but I do think down the line he will be, just because of like what I do know about him, and I think that's going to be a very rich character.
He's going to have a backstory that I think is going to make people rival the Darkling with him for sure.
Yeah,
people are going to be very. They're not going to know.
They kind of left it like what was his whole issue? Like why he was in
he has a brutal backstory.
I do know the backstory, and it's
things.
bad. It's bad with Pekka, and Pekka is a big part. And they kind of alluded to that in this.
Yeah, they
Pekka
did.
being a big part, and they never said it. And I mean, they don't say it for a good portion of even like I think it's in Cricket Kingdom before they even say what happened. Like, or he even talked. I don't know if he even talks about it. I can't remember. I skipped spoilers.
I saw a tweet on Twitter right after the show release that said something like, I feel bad for the 12-year-old kid that's going to have to play younger Kaz. I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah. It's a brutal backstory. It's a brutal backstory. It's brutal. It's brutal. And I cannot wait to see those scenes, not the scenes of his backstory, but the scenes of him having to relay that and having like, that's going to be powerful. I can't wait to see that. Like he has some really good moments, I think, coming up. And but leading to what I'm taking forever to get to is that Inej, I think, is probably my favorite. I loved her a lot because she always believed in the Sun Summoner, and her like getting to meet Alina and being like a little fangirl meeting Alina was so darn cute. It was so cute. And then I also really loved her because she was just so cool. She was so cool. She could like do like she was just like a little ninja, and she could do her knives, and she could do her acrobats. And I was like,
girl's abs. Like when she had to stitch herself up.
She was stitching herself.
Can I just say too, like how awesome it is to see a character that can do so much that is such like such a cool character and a cool woman, but not be this like sarcastic, hate you kind of attitude. Like she's so nice and so compassionate.
Yeah. She doesn't even want to kill anyone.
Yeah, like
she was so
I love
sweet.
that. I love that.
Hey April. Hey everyone. Hey Tim, Katie, Maddie, Shauna Claire. I'm sorry, Allie. I've been saying it in the thing, but we've just been going, and it's just been hard to get to comments that, But I did love Inej a lot. I thought she was very, very good. And I think, I don't know, again, Kaz and Inej, that's all I'll say. I think we're going to get some good stuff with them in the future.
The one who was most relatable to me was Nina, though. I think Nina was probably the most relatable character. Like, I mean, Inej, like it's almost like I can't believe she can even do all of those things. Like, it's just so amazing, Everybody else just seems so unreachable in the abilities, the capabilities of who they are. That's why they're great fictional characters. But the one character I think that is relatable, that really could be here sitting across the table for me would be Nina. Like she embodied, I think she embodies me.
Literally that
you are Nina.
Yeah, like you and my mom have the exact
I know, I was about to say.
Yeah, the whole time I really loved her personality, and I loved how she just spoke her mind, and you just respected her in like every scene, a lot like the Darkling, but in a different way. She captured like every scene that she was in. You wanted to like know, what are you going to say to this? Like, how are you going to respond?
She didn't withhold her emotion either. No. Like that's what I really liked about like how we were saying Inej wasn't all, catty or whatever. Nina on a different level wasn't too overreaching either. Like she was sensitive when she needed to be. She was caring when she needed to be. She wasn't a complete out jerk, even to this guy who was really trying to take her to go get executed, essentially. He really wasn't a jerk, I very much. Yeah,
I appreciated. I don't know about you guys. I just appreciate logical characters, especially logical women in stories, because for so long there have been so many illogical women in stories, and I'm like, I would never in a million years, nor do I know a woman that would ever make that decision. But like the women in the story, I really do appreciate the fact that every time you saw Nina, you saw her making events happen. That she's like, hey, I'm stuck here. I'm with this guy. I don't want to be with him, but at the same time, why I have to use you to move forward. So why are we going to argue? What's the point in that? Like, I just liked how logical she was in every situation. Like, that would be realistic. That's what I would do. Exactly.
Nina. Okay.
I did awesome. Like her. I did like her a lot. And she's going to definitely be a big role. I noticed it because she's a point of view in the Six of Crows books is Matthias.
Okay, cool.
And I noticed, on the boat at the end or the ship, when Kaz was talking about they needed a heart render, and she heard that.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is going to be perfect because they're going to, they're going to get Nina in the gang. Nina's going to be, a part of their gang next season, I'm sure. So that's going to be interesting, which I feel like, but I have read the beginning of book 2, and there's like I think a tiny bit of a time jump. It's not too much, but it's like really tiny. So I'm wondering what kind of time jump, if any, we're going to see between the 2 seasons.
Yeah, because Matthias was in that prison for 7 years in the book.
Oh,
I don't think it's going to. I don't know. I don't think they're going to do a 7-year time jump, but they could. No, I mean,
Christina's just heartbroken for
I know.
He's a man out there like that.
It's going to be rough between him and Nina for a hot second. I'll say that. That I'll recant didn't work out exactly the way she planned. But I think that one's going to be fun. Okay, so let's talk about, and I know we're like getting to the hour. Christine, I know Megan said you could stay a little over if you needed, if we went over. Are you okay? Okay. Sure. We won't have too many more questions, but there were a few questions I had on here. I thought we might get through all of these and still have more, but of course I should have known. I was like, no, we have enough to talk about. Okay. So like I put 2 different questions that were basically the same, which is most shocking moment versus most shocking twist. I mean, you can kind of combine the 2 if you want. They're about the same. This was me like getting home from work and being like, I need to make up questions. So for me, I'll go ahead and go first. And I will say like what popped into my head, other than the fact of those darn antlers going in that crowd, that's still, I was in horror, but we won't bring that up again because I just feel like I keep throwing it out there. It just horrified me that much. But I really was shocked, and I probably shouldn't have been, but I was really shocked by the conductor. I was like, what? I don't know why I was so shocked by the conductor, like trying to kill Alina. I really shouldn't have been, but that was kind of like, that one threw me for a loop that he like kind of betrayed Kaz in them. And that was one of those things like you should have probably seen it coming. And then I didn't see it coming. But yeah, so that one was kind of a shocker to me. And I don't know. I guess that one would be my biggest, like one of my bigger plot twists. Yeah. Other than, I mean, if you hadn't read the book, I would say probably the Darkling would have probably been that's like the book's biggest plot twist. But for someone who knew that, I think for me, it had to probably be the conductor.
Okay.
What about you, Christina?
I can't say that. Well, obviously the Darkling, right? And him being the Black Heretic, right? It was a Black Heretic.
Yeah.
Other than that, I can't say that all of it was shocking. It wasn't. It was that. Of course, Matthias getting her having to turn on Matthias.
Your boy Matthias, how dare she?
For her having to turn him in order to save him, and his reaction to her shook me. Obviously, I am still shooketh from this. That is probably those 2 things. But I will say there was another scene that I don't. It was shocking in the fact that I was like, really? That's all it took? Was when good Lord, when the Darkling went and he was talking to Bagra about like the different spells or whatever, and he was trying to find the books, go through the books and everything. And he found that one little piece of paper that had a spell on it. He like memorized the spell or he was reading it, going whatever. And then something happened and he had to leave. And then he goes outside and he makes the dang thing happen. Like that was bam, bam, bam. Really? Yeah. That part was shocking in a way because it was so unbelievable. I would have thought that would have taken more time, but it just happened that quick. And that to me, that was like, oh, okay, really? So that was it.
I agree with that. I think even in the moment I was thinking that, but because it was all new information for me, because like I said, I hadn't read that in the book, I didn't think too hard on it. But I agree with you that I thought about it while I was watching it, and then I just kind of went on with the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with that. That was a little bit of a far-reaching jump, just a little bit.
Yeah. They were like, we only have this much time, and we have to get through all of this, so let's just like really quickly like wrap that up.
My favorite or most shocking moment, I guess, as someone who's read the book and not a lot of it was shocking to me, I will say one of mine was the moment with the conductor when because all of that was made up. All of that was not in the book at all. They didn't make that whole run around with like the one of her friends was
had to
had to have something going on.
Was big for them.
Yeah, and so her friend that got killed, she was even at the end of the book. Like she didn't get killed, from my knowledge. But yeah, I think that was the most shocking because it was new for me. Like I didn't know that was going to happen. I think as far as most shocking moments, I personally loved seeing Mal's storyline because you just read it in the little notes at the bottom, like all of his letters that he was writing to Alina. You read that after the end of the book. It's like in the bonus content that's in the back of the book. Because the whole time it's just from Alina's perspective. So you only get Mal talking about it. And he's like, oh yeah, I went looking for the stag. And then my friends ended up getting killed. And then now I'm here for you, but I love you. And then like, it was very overshadowed by like the confession of love for Alina and finding the stag, that seeing it play out, I think made me connect to Mal more in the show than I was even in the book. Watching him, and I love it when shows balance violence, and I think the show did a good job with Mal's storyline. You didn't really see the brutality that he was having to struggle with until the show wanted you to. And that was a moment that I thought really hit you because you could tell all of them were like, should we cross over in this territory? Should we not? And they were like, let's do it. Instead of having faced that before and knowing what could have happened and obviously being faced with those mistakes and how that sat on Mal. Even though it's like a brutal moment, I think for me, I enjoyed seeing it happen rather than just hearing about it from Mal later because I feel like it made a bigger impact. So the shocking moment, I think that would be my favorite.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, it was definitely different seeing Mal's point of view and like seeing some of those scenes with him, which they also cut a scene out completely. That was like one of the bigger scenes. And that was Mal and Alina's like confrontation before Alina found out about the Darkling, which I feel weird. It's spoiling Christina, but I mean,
it's all good.
But I mean, basically like
you already gave me the worst spoiler ever that Mal hooked up with the other girl. No.
Yeah.
Worst spoiler ever.
Yeah.
So anything you have to say from this point going forward?
Well, I mean, so basically, Alina, I mean, at this point, when Mal comes to the little palace, or I guess he's at the Grand Palace at this point, right? I can't remember which palace he's at. He's at one of the palaces, and there's an event going on. And basically, like, he's there because he, like, kind of thinks Alina's being, like, held against her will and stuff. And he's, like, trying to be a savior. And she's, like, Team Darkling at this point. She's
it was right after they had kissed. And so she went back to her room. She was going back to her room. Like, that's where the Darkling was going to meet up with her later. Like, that's what was going to happen. And Mal intervened and met up with her. And they had this entire altercation, which is the entire reason why Baghra had enough time to come and actually get Alina. Because Mal had stalled her enough at that point for her to take a completely different detour from what happened. But that was a very emotional conversation because he was basically trying to tell her, they're not here for you. And she's like, but like they are though. And she had that conversation with him and it was very emotional. But they cut that out of the show.
Yeah. And I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it was I don't know. I liked that scene. I liked Mal in the book. I did. I felt like he, that scene showed him like coming after Alina. And like, I felt like I liked that scene. Because of that, because it showed that he, had came after her. And I didn't mind, I thought it was a good scene too, because here she was and, Mal is trying to, really like save her and be there for her. And, you know, she's like, no, like I have the Darkling. And she pretty much rebuffs him. And then like 2 seconds later, she's realizing, oh no, you don't, like this guy is like trying to just like put a collar around your neck, and Bagger's getting her out. And, yeah, I think that was a very like, oh crap moment for Alina, where she's like, crap, I really, I mean,
she had dug her feet in the sand at that point. Like, she had decided she loved the Darkling. She was wearing the black kefta, which, by the way, she had refused to wear the entire book. Like, they kind of made that as like a, now, like, here, I like you now kind of thing. But he wanted to put her in that the moment she got to the Little Palace, and she said no. She didn't want to be differentiated, from everyone else. Like, she wanted to be with everyone else. And so she was wearing the black kefta. Like, she was with it.
What color would she have worn anyway, though? You know, like
it was
the color
blue.
Of the blue.
It was oh gosh,
all the names. You do that.
Oh,
the gold sunbeam thing going on it,
it's
right?
Like the rest of it's not summon. Is it? What are they? I get confused with the names of the different.
Yeah, they're all called different things. There's fabricators, which was David. That's the purple.
Yeah,
the fabricators. Jinya was different though, because what she can do is fabricate someone's like face. It's a different. She's a tailor, so it's different. She's white. Yeah. And then there's the red. Who are the heartrenders? So the red.
I can't say the word. The corporal,
heartrenders, whatever they did. Yeah. Wait, what were the fire people? What did they wear?
No, I think all the elemental people wear the blue, right?
Yeah, I think that's all the elemental people. The summoner, like they're all the summoners of some kind of element. I think is what.
My head.
It was a lot in the book. It was a lot. It was a lot.
Well,
it was a lot in the book.
When they were trying to describe who everybody. I will say this about the story, about the whole series. When I first watched the first episode, I'm not a steampunk kind of girl. I don't necessarily care for steampunk, and it gave off very steampunkish vibes to me, and I love you, Kaylee, and the only reason why I stuck with it is because I love you. But now I'm glad that I did.
I gave you the Darkling and Alina.
Yes. But it was a slow build, because they were still trying to storytell all of these different factions, and I was like, what are they? What hadn't, and I wasn't getting it, and then just the time period type stuff that it just felt very steampunkish to me, and it was a turnoff, but then I stuck with it, and I'm glad I did. But that part, when I go back, because I'm going to do a rewatch, I'm going to go back and rewatch and really try to pay attention to how, because the guy who ended up putting the antlers in her, evidently, you remember the Darkling mentioned something like, well, you're finally useful, or something like that. Yeah. Because I was like, well, why? What?
He's a fabricator. Yeah. Basically what they do is they kind of they manipulate things, and they fabricate things together. Like, do you remember they did the secret entrance? They hid it with a fabricator, pretty much, because they were able to hide the doorway in certain places. They're able to create specific clothing for certain purposes. For example, the keftas, they're all bulletproof, things like that. Yeah. And so with David, especially in the books, you knew that David was just really good at like tinkering. Like, I always thought of him like, you're just a tinker, like a nerd in the corner, doesn't know how to communicate with people, but knows really how to create and invent things. And so you got the impression in the book that that's kind of all he did, was invent kind of useless things that the Darkling did not think of as being useful. And so that probably was, I guess I just took that as that was kind of his purpose. I do know that David has a higher purpose in the story, but because I haven't read further than what I have, I don't know what it is. But I'm interested to see where his character goes, because I don't think we've spent enough time with the fabricators.
Well, even for him to even push the bones inside of them like that, if she ever wanted them, so stop, Kaylee. In order for if she ever wanted them out, she's going to need a fabricator to take them out of her, the antlers out. So, I don't know. Hold on. Plot thing. What happened to because if y'all remember, because there was a stag and then there was like 4 other amplifiers.
Yeah.
I missed what happened to the other 3 amplifiers?
So that's each book. If you notice, if you've looked at the books, the first one has the Shadow and Bone. It has the antlers of the amplifier. The second book has to do with like a sea monster, and the third one, like they show the amplifiers in the covers.
Wow. I didn't even, you know what? Just until this very moment, I'm looking at it on Kaylee's bookshelf. Just until this very moment, I realized that it's a stag. Okay.
I did the same thing.
I thought it was
I was reading it and I'm like, this is why it's called Shadow and Bone. I didn't catch it either until I got to that point in the book, and then I looked at the pages. I'm like, oh wait.
I brought my other one.
Yeah.
They're in my other room.
Okay.
I did the same thing, but yeah. No, the second book, it starts off very quickly, and it's the second amplifier. So I'm pretty sure the way that they're going to do it is going to be a new one.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Wow.
All right. So moving on. 2 more questions. What question did I just ask?
That's favorite moments, shocking moments, things like that.
Oh, shocking moment. Okay. Well, okay. I think I asked shocking moment. Is anyone's favorite moment different than the shocking moment? Because that was another question. I'm going to say from like my fangirl perspective of Kaz and Inej, I really liked the moment where like, Kaz was in, I don't know where they were at. I can't remember in my head, but like he was fighting that guy that like threw the fire at him, and he was going to get hit, and then Inej like killed him. And then like, you know, that was like, she killed him and she was like freaking out about killing this guy. And then Kaz was like, but you saved my life. And like, I remember seeing like Freddie, who plays Kaz, he like did like this little interview thing where he talked about like Kaz having all these like emotions, and like in that moment didn't know like what he was feeling. And he like was trying to like, Kaz is just a very interesting character to me.
Yeah.
I'll put this comment back on the screen because this is me. I do. And Kaz just draws me in because his looks, and I just can't wait. I can't wait for the future seasons. I cannot.
I love it.
So good. But that's probably one of my favorite scenes ever. And I will go ahead and kind of combine this with my last question, which was like favorite line. And I really liked during the very last episode when Alina was fighting with the Darkling, and she like, you know, had realized that she could like control it, you know, because she had like helped save the stag or whatever, or she had tried to save the stag. And she tells the Darkling, you may have needed me, but I never needed you. And that was one of my favorite lines and favorite scenes in the entire show, because she was like, finally, like, I don't need, and especially knowing the book context, like Megan was saying, like where she really was like, oh, like I'll just get the amplifier, and like I have the Darkling, and like I don't need, you know, whatever. And so I don't need to train. I think having that quote, which may have not been exactly what was in the book, but it was very similar. The book was very similar in that sense. I thought that was a very powerful scene.
She had been pushed pretty hard at that point.
Yeah.
Because of having, yelled at Mal, been thrown out, looked for the stag, lost Mal, using Mal against her. Zinnia had betrayed her. At this point, like, she had been through so much crap that it was a big moment at that point for her to be like, no, now I'm going to fight for me. And it was a big, I preferred the book, you know. Yeah, we've already talked about that.
Yeah, I can't wait. We'll have to have a part 2 after Christina reads the book.
Really.
I feel like we should just have a ship. I need to find someone that's on team like Inej and Kaz and like team Mal and Alina, and we just need to have a Ship Wars episode.
I think that would be great.
Yeah. I have to have someone else that's Alina and Mal. Probably no one, considering it's like apparently I picked the most like unpopular ships somehow, because I don't know. But anyways, Christina, did you have like a favorite line in particular and favorite moments that stood out to you?
To piggyback off of what you said, my favorite moments, monologue really was Kaz's at the end when he was sitting there at the campfire and he was just kind of talking through, what faith meant to him and so forth and all of that, Oh,
it was so good. It was so good. Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
That whole part for Kaz, that was point for you, Kaylee.
Yes.
That was my favorite, not my favorite episode by far. Episode 6 was my favorite episode because then I got to go back to Matthias and Nina. Like, that whole arc was amazing. And so that was my favorite episode. But for moments and monologue sort of thing, it was definitely Kaz's at the end. It doesn't take much to make me cry. But I think there was a lot of other things happening that I was trying to focus on, that and my daughter and everything else. But if it was just me and Kaz in the screen at that time and nothing else was going on in my life, I would have cried. So yeah. And
that was a beautiful scene, Christina. Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for bringing that up, because I want to say one thing really quickly, and then I will, like, if Megan has anything else to say. I don't remember if you even answered Megan. I'm just let me just tell you that part where he was like talking about crows and how crows remember who have wronged them, but they also remember who shows them kindness. And he looks, tells them who to look out for. And he said, no saint has ever done anything for me like what you have done for me. And the feelings. Anyways, okay, we'll move on. I could do a whole hour. I feel like when I do, like, I'm going to have to eventually have just a video of me squealing about, like, when I finish 6 of Crows, it will happen. It will happen. Just be prepared.
What we should do is we should all read the 3 trilogy books and then both of 6 of Crows, and we should come back, because based off of what I know, I think that would be an incredibly emotional and great video for
that
all
would
of
be
us.
like that would be like a 5-hour video of, like,
of just all these tears and love and everything.
And then there's like 1 hour where it's just me talking about Kaz and Edge.
Just you by yourself. Yeah. Come to Kaylee's corner where she has all the feels.
We'll bring snacks.
It'd be like an hour long, like intro of me being like, okay, I have to talk about Kaz and Edge before we get into this, and just tell you how I feel and the emotions that I have about Kaz. Also, let me just go ahead and tell you about Mal and Alina are the better couple, because people I would have on this show are going to disagree with me and say it's going to be, the Darkling. But let me tell you why it's not the Darkling. Anyways, I love you guys.
You ragged on our ship so hard this whole time.
I know, but I feel like I always am with the unpopular ship, so I'm just like I'm used to it. I'm used to, like, my little baby dingy, my little dingy ship that's just like trying.
So many of those. So many.
The Titanic's, right? You know that scene from Titanic, like, where the Titanic's going by and there's like this tiny little ship. And I kid you not, that's always how I feel. I'm like the tiny little ship. And then there's the Titanic, but the Titanic sank.
Listen, I feel like that's what my ship's like. It's just like I'm on this big haul with a bunch of people who agree with me, but I feel like it's just gonna sink.
It's gonna sink.
We will that's where I feel like a good author, if I pick, okay, I have to go back. I know it's not about Twilight. This is totally not about Twilight, but I was always and still will ever be Team Jacob. Like, I sailed that ship. It sank miserably. That's okay. So I'm with you, Kaylee. My little Titanic was Team Jacob. And I'm still not even for daggone.
I've had a long day at work.
Whatever. Like, still Team Jacob, but it's okay. I just had to say it. I'm a grown woman at 40, and I'm still Team Jacob. Yeah.
I was on Team Jacob for like a little. I jumped. That was one ship I kept jumping, and I couldn't make my mind up until the last book, and then I just feel like I just hated Stephanie Meyer after that. And that's just another. That is a whole nother.
There is a whole other video we could have. Let's just unpack Twilight. Let's unpack it.
Christina would be down. Christina, I would let you have the opening monologue about why Team Jacob was a ship that shouldn't have sunk.
Well, and on top of this, to this day, I still hate Bella. I'm gonna say.
I mean, I can't disagree.
Bella.
I mean, her in the book was better, but like the movies were just.
Oh my God, Katie. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
No, I've been on some really bad Titanic ships. I've been on some Titanic ships that I didn't know we were sinking until the last episode of the series. I was like, oh, we're sinking.
We're sinking. There needs to be merch for that. It's like, oh no, we're sinking.
Oh my gosh, no. Like for real.
Turn the page. Oh.
We're not gonna happen. We're not gonna make it to shore, people.
Oh no! If there's some, I will just say we will not. This is not the low-key chat. By the way, plug. I'm having a low-key chat tomorrow night with my friends Tim and Katie. You guys are also welcome to join. It's so last minute, you probably can't. But if you want to come in the chat, anyways, that would be great. Let me just tell you, without spoilers, that sometimes your ship starts sailing and getting crew without you knowing it's gonna do that.
Just going and going. I was like, wait a minute.
I know. Like you push your little dinghy off the shore.
No, it's like
it just happens.
Like, wait for me.
Oh my gosh, no. Although to be fair, I went on Tumblr, which I've heard is not the place to go, but like my ship is still a dinghy apparently on Tumblr. A very small dinghy. Like no one on Tumblr like yeah. I was like, okay, we went so like anyway.
It's a detour. I'm sorry.
I feel like that's just when you get all of us shippers together. It's gonna happen.
This is bound to happen.
Me and Megan doing our like 1 hour or 5 minute that turned into 1 hour test trial because we kept going from fandom to fandom to fandom. Yep. That's the issue. Like, you know, I like too many fandoms and there's just too much to talk about. But anyways, we did mostly stay on topic for most of this chat. It would not be one of my chats if it did not devolve into madness at some point because that was just me.
Valid. All of it pertains.
That's just me. I can't have a live watch with someone on the wrong episodes. Megan might have missed those live watches, but we did a live watch for both Falcon and Winter Soldier and also for WandaVision. And I had like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 people on. And there was someone who was on the wrong episode for WandaVision during our live watch. And then there was someone on the wrong episode for Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I was like, what is going on?
Like, what are you watching?
I know. Like, literally, Jeanna Claire was the one for the Falcon and Winter Soldier. And she was so funny. She's like, am I on the wrong episode? And I thought she was just like joking, and she was like, "Guys, I really think I'm on the wrong episode." She was, and then Connor was the same way. He was so confused. So it's always that's how these shows are. Anyways. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining. Before we end, really quickly, I'll start with Megan. What do you have coming up? You aren't super active on YouTube, but you're pretty active over on Instagram and Etsy. Thanks.
Yes.
It was crazy.
This is just me. She's awesome too, by the way. If y'all want awesome
Maddie
art.
is awesome. Yes. Maddie does some awesome art. She also is on Instagram. I just wanted to say this. She watched the entire 5 minutes of the previous episode before she realized she was on the wrong episode. That was true. It was so funny. Oh, you are too awesome. Yes, Maddie is so good. So, well, I have like what's sad. I'm in their we are all cousins, but Maddie and Megan and Mia and Zach, I mean, all of them, like, you know, Zach with his photography. So I'm like, I can understand now why I cannot draw a stick figure because all of the creative stuff in our family just went to them because they're so talented.
Are you kidding me? You keep up with the YouTube channel. I made one video and I couldn't come back. I could not. I can't be consistent on any platform. I just can't do it.
we already talked about how awesome of a host I am. Literally, I sent Christina those questions like an hour before, and she's like, "Girl, I need these 2 days ago." we get an hour because I'm a professional. But you're like an hour. This is how real professionals do it. You don't get 2 days. But real professionals. Also, real professionals don't advertise until the day of. They get Megan to advertise for them.
I feel like advertising every day, but I haven't posted on my own Instagram in a week. I advertised for Megan to post 2 hours before we did this.
I texted her and I was like, dang, you can advertise. I was like, 9 times out of 10, I don't even ever advertise. I'm lucky. Usually I like get on a live stream and I'm like, oh, I forgot to put tags in. So no one can find it. So yeah, I agree. Tim sees the potential there. My friend Tim and Katie, they're awesome vloggers, by the way. Gonna just shout everyone out since we've evolved and we're just everywhere. Yes. This is also Katie, who is part of Tim and Katie. So they're awesome too. They have great vlogs. So go check them out. And also Tim is my awesome moderator for all that madness that happened last week. He helped me out. So anyways, so we never got to what Megan's doing with her life. So Megan, you have an awesome Instagram and also an awesome Etsy shop. So I'll just let you talk for a second about what you're doing. And yeah, I also have the links. I have the links to your Instagram down below as well. So
yeah, because that has a link tree to everything else. So that'd be
to everything.
The best thing. But yeah, I post mainly like book photography and I talk about books and sometimes I talk about writing because I want to hopefully be an author at some point, hopefully. But I then have an Etsy store where I make custom Funko Pops, and I now have just recently started a TikTok where I am posting like the progress of what it's like to make those and what it looks like. So yeah.
Nice.
She has some really good Disney ones. My friend Jonna Claire is not on right now anymore, I don't think, but Jonna Claire definitely needs to check you. Yeah. My Funko Pop friends, because for real, like they're so amazing. Like
yeah, I decided to do like medieval ones, which I've like really loved, like creatively. I really love doing those. I have some Maleficents in my Etsy store right now. Like, and I personally, I love them. They're some of my favorites.
They're very good. I've loved your like Disney inspired ones for sure. All right. And Christina, whose channel is also linked in the description box, and as well as her Instagram. She's on Instagram too. Oh, Christina, what do you have?
I'm a shadow on Instagram.
You're learning Instagram. I haven't posted on Instagram forever.
Yeah, we don't get along. Like I still like y'all were putting those you were doing the advertisements and I was like, okay, I can click and add. Like I feel like that meme where the caveman with their phone. That's me on Instagram. I can't do it. I don't know what's going on. However, on YouTube, I am proficient enough. Although lately I've had some issues and switching over to editing on iMovie, and that has been my existence. So I'm relearning new software, iMovie, to edit and whatever. But either way, anyway, my channel is Read.Pray.Disney. So I do planning and packing, although I haven't done much of that lately. I do pens. And I read. So I finished the series, Rebel Rose. That was the Queen's Counsel Rebel Rose from Emma Throlt. And oh my God, it just had me, because Beauty and Beast is my jam. Like that's my heart. That's my lifeblood. And the way she took that story was amazing. So anyway, I do readings. I read through the stories and just give you guys my feedback. Almost chapter by chapter. And right now I'm doing The Evil Queen, which I've had a little bit of a lull as far as videos coming out, only because life has been, we're getting ready to go to Disney and we're sponsoring about little less than 30 people. So we'll be in Disney July 18th. And so we are definitely gearing up towards that and making sure that's taken care of. So but I do have another video. I have a couple of videos coming out now, and then I have another one this weekend with Rebel Rose update. So, but yeah, that's pretty much me.
And you did the tag I tagged you in. I haven't seen it yet, but you did
Stop
that
it.
tag. It's a pin tag.
So thank you for tagging me, because yes, I did do it this time.
You did. No, it's fine. I see, me being the amazing YouTuber I am, I tag people, but then never tell them I tagged them. It's just a surprise months later when the tag's no longer relevant. They look at it. They look at it and then they're like, oh.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm Kaylee. Yeah. This is my channel that I've tried to stay on top of. It's gone a little better. I keep hitting lulls because work is just a lot. But I have my Loki reaction videos filmed. I've been doing Loki reactions, but the editing takes forever. So those are still coming. It's just taking me a minute. But tomorrow I am doing my Loki live. It'll be tomorrow night, and it's going to be with my friends Tim and Katie. And then if anyone else does want to join, usually I have a good many people in the chat because Loki is just like amazing. It's amazing. So much happened this week on this episode, so that's a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm kind of going more towards like the movies, TV shows, and book content, like, you know, kind of that kind of realm. But I still have some pin stuff going on and things like that. But anyways, I wanted to show Maddie's comment, and then we will get off of here because it's going so over. I'm sorry. She says, Christina related to you this entire video, other than liking Kiergan. He is creepy, but that's okay. Hang on. Maddie, yes. Thank you. Okay, even if you don't ship Alita and Mal, which is totally okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I felt like I was alone.
See, we can have Maddie on, and Maddie can ship Mal and Alita.
Maddie, questions. Do you ship Kazan and Nedge? That's important. Also, you don't have to ship Alita and Mal. We just got to be on this agreement that, you know, her and Kiergan, after the whole like, it's not gonna happen, right? Anyways, okay. That was my message to Maddie.
I will never stop liking Darkling. I'm sorry. Ben Barnes just confirmed it for me. Prince Caspian sailed that boat years ago, and I will just stay on that ship, no matter what Ben Barnes does.
I can respect it. Because I'm the kind of girl, once my ship sails, it sails. It's gone.
I mean, there you go.
Forever. It never finds its way back to shore, unless it's like a happy little island where all the shippers are happy because the ship, like, you know, sailed to its safe destination. Anyways, I was just yeah, thank you. I mean, I don't know. I probably would have been like, I mean, he's hot enough, and like he's the Darkling, and like I have this new power. I probably would have like gone with it for a bit, but I'm telling you right now, that little creepy bone, that's where my line would have been drawn in the sand. Not only does it control me, but it also goes into my freaking body, and that's just not Gucci with me.
Okay. So hold on. First of all, black looks good on everybody, but second of all, when he had it pushed in, I was like, how's somebody gonna kiss her?
My first thought, honestly, was like, you can't wear sweaters anymore. It's gonna pull on everything.
My first and only thought was, ew. Like,
oh my gosh.
That was pretty much, that was the thought. But next time when we have Shipper Wars, we'll have to get Maddie on, because Maddie's apparently on my team enough that, you know.
You need backup.
I need backup. I felt outnumbered this live, you know. But I will always flail about Kazan and Edge. Okay, it's gonna happen. If it doesn't happen, that will be a whole live of me railing at the writers, because I will not be happy. But anyways, this is going on too long.
Looks like it's gonna happen.
Oh, it's gonna happen.
I thought, well, okay, I know you're trying to end, but I really thought.
No, go ahead.
I have to say,
you thought he was going to die. Okay.
Yes, like I felt like, okay, Game of Thrones, how like everybody died this minute. You were like, oh, okay. I really thought Jesper was gonna die at the end. Like I felt it. I was like, oh, please don't, please don't, please don't, because he was just too much. You know, I loved him, but he was just so much. And usually characters like that, you know, they don't end.
They usually get killed off. They're the ones you're not expecting, and then they die. Yeah.
Like the comedic characters, those are kind of the ones, which I did like him a lot. I thought he added a lot to it, but I kind of knew they weren't going to, just because he was so instrumental in Six of Crows. Yeah, I feel like they could.
They haven't really even touched even his like storyline in Six of Crows yet. There were things about him that I wasn't even aware of.
Yeah, I think all the Six of Crow people are pretty sick. One last comment I want to flail about, since we had to bring up almost death. Let's talk about Inej on the skiff when the Volcra was coming at her, and then Cass coming out of nowhere with that cane, and he's like, "Don't you get my girl?" I just I was so into this, I just spit everywhere. And he's like, "Don't you get my girl?" And he's like in front of her, and he's like gonna fight to the death, and he's like, anyways, okay, I just could flail, but I've already spent.
Y'all made me want to rewatch this entire show all over again.
I know, like I'm going to go back and rewatch it.
I'm the kind of person, I rewatched that one scene of him doing that probably 3 times, and then I was also like, Kaylee, you gotta get the.
You're the best kind of fan, though. I mean, you just eat up like everything with relationships.
I kid you not. I swear, I was the type of girl I used to, and I told Katie this. I don't know if Katie's still in the stream. I told Katie this. There was a ship that I was so into, and when I was in high school, like they released this like little like promo, and it showed them like sitting together against the tree for like 2 seconds and like looking at each other. And I remember showing it to my friend in slow mo and like pausing. I was like, "What do you think that means? Do you think that means that they're going to get together?" Because they kind of look like they're going to get together. Like, what does that look? I'm that kind of fan that I like go back.
You're that meme that's like heavy breathing, like the subtext though. Like
that guy like pointing to all the like little like conspiracy theories, and I'm like,
look at this. Okay.
But this look right here, this is why. Or like those YouTube videos where it's like 53 reasons to ship this couple. That's me. That's me. He looked at her at this scene.
Okay, so
that's me.
Before you end, I have to ask you guys, are you guys like Vampire Diaries? Do y'all do Vampire Diaries? Okay. Cool.
I am still struggling with Legacies. I am with it. Yeah. But I've watched every show, every side story.
Yeah, me too. Yep. I couldn't. Oh, okay. I know this. Okay. All right. So we have to have a conversation about that at some point. And then has anyone read oh shoot. Hold that thought. Has anyone read, what is it called? Discovery of Witches.
I have not read the books, but I've watched the show.
Okay. That is
it a new show?
Huh?
That just came out? Is that a new show?
It's good.
Yeah, it was like not last year, right? Like they started it last year.
The first season came out about 2 years ago because the main actress got pregnant, and then COVID also. It just like had a bunch of delays. But the second season just recently came out.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I feel like I saw it on on Netflix, like recently.
No, it wasn't on Netflix. It's on
Amazon.
It's something else then.
It's like Shudder or something like that. You have to subscribe to somewhere to see it. Sundance, that's what it is. Sundance.
Yeah, Sundance. That's what it is. Okay. Y'all, that is a book series. If y'all have ever get a chance to read that one, Discovery Witches, I still think about it. Like it is beyond. Like it's historical fiction, but it's just so good. It's got vampires and you know, it's just
I loved the politics just within it's a vampire story with a lot of depth to it, which I really enjoyed watching. I feel like the show also has done a pretty good depiction of what it was. My mom read the books.
Yes, that's one show series where they don't pick. They're not who I thought and they were in my mind. Really? Like they didn't come out that way. But I'm not mad with who they have. But either way, I know there's other different fandoms. I'm just saying. But if y'all ever wanted to talk about Vampire Diaries or Discovery Witches, I so need an outlet.
Listen, the only show, and I've thought for years about wanting to start a YouTube channel just to talk about TV because I watch so many different television shows, but that is the only story that I have ranted about on Twitter because I'm so passionate about it that once Vampire Diaries and the originals and then with Legacies, like I am incredibly passionate about that story because it has so much potential to be so good, and it's drawn the worst cards so many times.
Yes.
That like I would love to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because
have you read any of the books? Have you read any of the books for Vampire Diaries?
No, because the books covered the first like 3 seasons, and they changed enough about it that at the point that it's really not even the books. They changed a lot about it. So what it is what it is on television, pretty much. Okay.
Kaylee, you need to get on it.
Well, I can't.
If you can struggle through the last 3 seasons of Vampire Diaries.
I mean, wait. You said, Christina, you haven't seen the last 3 seasons?
No, I've seen it all.
Oh, okay. You were just I think it was the last season was like the hardest for me. I could stick through it. But I mean, there's some shipper things we could get into there that we won't. But that's a whole there could be a whole
some of the mistakes.
Yes. Anyways,
oh my goodness.
Let me the only thing I will say, and this is where I will leave this, is I refused to watch the originals for a hot minute because of Klaus and Ruth and Haley. I was so upset.
I was so
upset. Originals are so much better than Vampire Diaries.
Well, I did like originals. I watched the last season.
The last season is awful.
Watching in order. I watched the last season because Caroline and Klaus. Let's be real. Okay. But Caroline, talking about ships. Let me tell you one other thing while we're on here. Caroline was, I'm weird with certain people. Like Caroline was one of the few people that I could ship with multiple people and it didn't hurt me, unlike a lot of my ships. But so I shipped her with pretty much every character she was ever with on screen. Just because I don't know, but I did. But I really wanted her and Klaus together. And then I refused to watch it for a hot minute because I felt like they did that whole. First off, I was mad Klaus was leaving Vampire Diaries because I felt like that was stupid. It turned out to be good, in the long run, but I thought that was stupid. And then obviously I wanted him and Caroline, and then whatever. But
they made a decision. A bunch of people with the originals, when the originals was created, said why? Well, Joseph Morgan, where's Candace King? And he basically said in an interview that Vampire Diaries would sink without Caroline, and I do agree with that. I feel like if Caroline had left at that time, they would have had to have ended the show because I don't believe there was enough left, especially after Nina Dobrev noped out of it, that there really wasn't a whole lot left to continue on without Caroline. I personally think that you should end something when it's good. And don't go on until you want it to be done. It should have ended when the originals started. And I feel like that would have allowed a lot more room for better storytelling in the originals. But the originals is still hands down so good and worth the watch, even though I hated the final season.
Yeah, the final season was how it.
The fact that they wrote themselves into so many corners made me so mad. But and then I refused to watch Legacies for a while, but of course I still did. And I have not watched the last 5 episodes because
I've watched. Is it only 2 or 3 seasons? How many?
It's 3 seasons, and it's been narrowly renewed.
Okay, I've watched the first 2. I have not watched the 3rd season. I just can't.
The second season, I feel like, granted, COVID obviously pushed everything. And you have to, I gave a little bit of forgiveness because COVID, I think, rushed them more. But I hate Josie's character. She is so annoying. And I just don't like her. And they made her such a pivotal point. And her, villain self or whatever was the dumbest thing I'd ever seen. And so I could never take it seriously. And I felt like Hope was just kind of thrown to the side when I'm I'm watching this for Hope, And with season 3, it really, I don't leave television shows. A lot like Kaylee said. Kaylee does it with relationships. I just do it with plot. I just want to know what happens to characters. I will suffer through some of the dumbest television shows just because I want to know what happens. I have not watched the last 5 episodes of Legacies because I just got so done with it with season 3. But they did something in the finale that I heard about that I now feel like I have to go back and watch it. But
Okay.
I just keep seeing pictures of all the characters in panda suits, and I'm like,
the hell?
why?
Panda suits.
Exactly.
It's like Riverdale. You know, where Riverdale was good that first season, and then it just like it just went.
See, I never got on to Riverdale. Well, we loved Sabrina though. But then how they ended Sabrina, I was like, oh my god, seriously.
Yeah, I actually just watched an entire 2-hour long video on YouTube about Sabrina and where the downfall went, and it's just one of those things people. I feel like people need to plan out better with television shows, and I think they only plan for one season, especially CW shows. Only plan for one season, and if it succeeds, then they just don't really know what they're doing later, and it just goes down this decline until it's forced to be canceled.
Yeah,
and that's where I feel like they've done with Vampire Diaries. I think it had its great
Once Upon a Time. How they did with Once Upon a Time, and where they
that would be a whole nother chat. I've seen all of Once Upon a Time, all of Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, which was
a good series.
I liked Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, but
I honestly believe Disney killed Once Upon a Time. Disney did it.
Really?
I think, because if you notice, the best season, in my opinion, of Once Upon a Time was the Peter Pan Wizard of Oz season. It was season 3. It was so good. One of the things that was so good about Once Upon a Time was their retelling ability. I love fairy tale retellings; are my favorite.
Me too.
And yes, love them. And their retelling ability was really well done. I loved every twist on every character. It was super believable. You were interested in watching the episodes because you wanted to know, who are you? Because they were so different. You couldn't tell until you learned their backstory. Then they introduced Frozen. And I did hear that, and that's when it got not great, because I heard that they were planning to make Elsa the villain.
Yeah.
And there was a bunch of outrage that happened, and people were like, you can't make Elsa the villain because our kids are watching the show and they love Elsa. And I do believe it was a mistake to introduce something so new into that show, because it was just been classics.
It really didn't feel right. It felt out of place. It just didn't feel right.
And so at that point, I feel like the writers were they were under a boot a little bit, you can't do certain things that you would like to do. And then at that point, it just sort of went downhill, and it fizzled out. Really, and it was so good though.
It was that Peter Pan. My husband and I, I'm telling you, my husband, we leave every episode daggone effing pan, every time.
I loved this so much. That was my favorite 12 episodes of the entire show. Just their take on Peter Pan. It was so good. So good.
It was good.
Oh gosh,
it was good. Okay. Last thing, for real. I've been wanting to say this, and it's kind of back to the originals, because I just wanted to point out again, me liking couples that no one else likes. But the originals, the reason I did see a little more of it is I got into Cole and Davina, and no one else really likes Cole and Davina as much as I like Cole and Davina. I know, but I like them. Everyone else doesn't like them. I liked Cole and Davina. I just want to put it out there, okay?
Did y'all hear though that Daniel Sherman may be auditioning for season 2 of Shadow and Bone though?
Really?
Is he Cole? Is that who we're talking about?
Yeah.
Who is he? Okay.
Cool.
Yes.
Oh, I would love that. He's so cute.
Yes. I know. There's a lot of people who are being so picky about this character. I know the character that they're talking about, but I would freaking love Daniel Sherman to be in that show. I think it would be great.
Yeah. I think he's great.
But I would love to do
I thought he was great with Davina. Okay. I'm just
I did not like Davina. Sorry.
I will find my people one day. I just feel like that's always how it goes. I just always like the couple that no one likes. Why? I don't know, but it just always ends up being that way. I thought they were very likable, but anyways, I do want to read Tim's comment. He says he literally stopped watching Once Upon a Time after season 3, specifically because he was so pleased with the mid-season ending that he decided it was better off ending the show that way.
Yep. Honestly,
I do that with some shows.
You survived a lot. The continuation without Emma, that's something I was just that never needs to be spoken of.
Wasn't it an alternate? I didn't see the entire last season because I was
it was over not great.
I was over it at that point. I don't know, because then too, I know Hook was still in it, but I was a big Emma and Hook fan. Which I feel like most people
to get to that one.
Yeah, I do like Emma and Neil, and one of my best friends from high school, Cassidy, who's not on here. She's sick tonight, but she did read Shadow and Bone because I suggested it. So I miss you, Cassidy. I hope you feel better. But she actually was like the biggest like Neil and Emma fan ever, and it drove her crazy that Hook and Emma ended up like she couldn't take it. And I did like Neil
agree.
and Emma,
I totally agree. I was Neil and Emma, and Hook just seemed too, and they wrote him that way, but he just seemed too sly, you know?
Yeah.
I couldn't. But
I was hardcore.
I wish I had
Hook and Emma shipper over here.
I was too, but I saw like it's weird. I don't know what point I jumped into the series, but I'm pretty sure I saw Hook and Emma together. That's another thing with me. If I see a couple together first, sometimes that will kind of sway me. So like I saw Hook and Emma before I saw Emma and Neil, and that might have just like if I would have seen Emma and Neil first. I think I may have gone that way a little more strong and like might have been Die Hard, but I was like Die Hard Emma.
What was your opinion on Rumpelstiltskin and Belle? Because I never got with it.
Really? I loved them.
I could never.
Was this a popular opinion again? Okay, I loved them.
Okay. I liked it. I hated what he did to her, or what he forced her. He forced her to do, you know, which, you know, put herself in the sleeping purse. I hate the eyeliner.
Yeah, I do think that they were I love eyeliner. I'm not even gonna lie, okay?
He looks good. He looks better with the eyeliner. No offense to Colin O'Donoghue or whatever his name is. He looked better with the eyeliner. It made him
Some
a better looking man.
Have that pirate look, and I just love pirates.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you, my favorite episode, probably one of my favorite episodes ever. It is after the whole Peter Pan stuff. It's right before we started into Frozen, and that is when they like went back in time to when her parents like were gonna get together, and then like they messed it up, and then they were trying to like fix it, and so then like Emma has to go to Hook's ship, and like it's like the other Hook or whatever, and then like a real-time Hook like punches that guy out, and he was like he was being a sleazeball. He just like was so funny. I that's like one of my favorite episodes.
Honestly, Hook and Emma for me is one of the only reasons to continue watching it past season 3, in my opinion. But it does just get to a point where it's a struggle to get through. I mean, it's just it gets kind of just cringe, and I never felt like that was one of the only shows that I feel like was not cringy in its own sense. It was just a Disney show, and then it got cringy, and I'm like,
I will say, Regina killed it for me. Like Regina, hands down. Like she is my evil. Like Tim and I, we agree on this. Tim, put it in the chat. I know you're there. She is our evil queen forever and ever. Like
I have like a special edition pop of Regina, and you can't buy it anymore online. Like I have it, and I'll keep it forever. I want to cosplay her. I just don't have the money for it. I was in Disney World, and they have her dress that's from the TV show in one of the glass cases down in the Magic Kingdom, and I'm like, I just love looking at it. Like everything about her was so good. That was honestly it's so good. That was honestly one of the biggest things I didn't like about as it went downhill. They kind of ruined her character. Yeah. And her character got muddled, and I'm like, no, but I love you. Like
they did her dirty. They did her dirty with Selena. They did her dirty with Robin and Zelina. That was that was a line. That was a line for me that they could not take back. When they went over that line with Robin and Zelina, that was when my love of the show died, to be honest. Like completely. I was like, I stayed with I only would watch Emma and Hook stuff. Because that was the end. That was the end for me. And then, they killed Robin off and all this stuff. Oh, wait. Tim, get off the chat. Tim hadn't seen it. Whoops. Sorry. If you haven't seen it at this point, though, then, that's kind of on you, bud. It's kind of on you. But it's been a long time. But no, because I was like the biggest Robin and Regina shipper ever. I loved Robin and Regina. It was so good. That was my
thing. It's like I loved her development, and they had such a good development. And then I feel like what they did was they took that development away.
Yes.
And at that point, I feel like we were watching something that every episode, I'm like, you're ruining it. Just stop. Just stop. Especially with the final season when she's like a bartender.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, no.
I don't need to see you in a cheetah print tank top, okay? Like, what is your personality? Like, who
I think Lana had like a really fun time with that, though, for real.
Oh, I'm sure that
probably
they
a
did.
fun time to shoot, but no, I just didn't like it. I don't know. I have issues with love triangles. I have issues with like part of the couple having a child with another. I just like that when they're already established. It's a different story if like they had a child before they got together. That's like one thing. But when you have this child while they're together, that's just a completely different thing to me. Yeah. And then like I felt like too like I just hated Zelina. I just hated Zelina
so much.
I hated her.
She was a character that kept coming back, and I was one of those characters. I'm like, if this was the old Once Upon a Time, meaning seasons 1 through 3, you would have been dead by now. You would have gotten your heart broke out. Yeah. You would have been dead. But at some point, they did just stop killing people in the show, and I feel like that took away a lot of like the what's good and what's bad and what's going to happen, you know? And that's one of those characters that every week I was like, just go away. Just go away. Yeah. But they tied her too far into the show.
Yeah. I felt like Zelina, as much as I hated the character, I thought the actress was good, but I also
she played it really well.
She played it really well. And because, I mean, obviously for you to hate her as much as you hated her,
right. It takes
she was a good actress. Like, it wasn't just like we hated her because, like, man, she's just a terrible actress and she's just there. Like, she was good at making you, like, want to hate this girl. Yeah. But I felt like they just took it too far. They should have, like, killed her. That scene where, like, Rumpel, like, turned her into glass, or, like, showed, like, he turned her into glass and, like, killed her or whatever, like the little like that should have been the end. Like he should have killed her and that should have been the end of it. And it would have been, to me, it would have been almost like poetic justice that he killed her when she like, you know, took him and all this stuff. So I would have enjoyed that. I feel like at times they ruined Rumpel a little bit too.
Yeah. It was again another thing like what we're talking about with Regina where I feel like I wish they would have made a decision. Like, you're either going to redeem him or he's going to be a consistent villain. And you need to make that decision and don't go back on it. Because they would redeem him and they would tie him up with Belle. Then him and Belle would be together. And you're like, okay, now this is done. Where's the new villain? Right. And then they were like, they just fell back on him so many times to be the villain that at that point, I'm like, you're ripping away their character development. And now also because he's wrapped up with Belle, you're also taking Belle's character development away. And it was a show that went on too long.
Exactly. Yeah. They kept it going for no reason, and it was just as much as I loved it. I'm with Tim. Like they should have just stopped. Yep. It should have stopped.
Yeah. Yep. Or even did like they did with Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, where you have just like a one-off season of like something like a fandom. Like I think I really liked Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, and I thought it was done really well. And so, I mean, and it was just a one season show.
Can we just talk about the fact, though, that Sebastian Stan played the Mad Hatter and how great that is? Because he'll never return to TV.
No.
He will never return
to good.
TV.
He was so good as the Mad. I did enjoy him as the Mad Hatter.
That was a great one episode.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Well, yeah, he was good. And then also, what's his face? Jamie Dornan. That went on to play Christian Grey. He was
never look at him the same way again.
No. He was August. No, he wasn't August.
He was the huntsman.
The huntsman. Graham. He was Graham. Yeah. And my mother almost started watching that television series because she likes Jamie Dornan, and I was like, Mom, please don't start watching this show because of that. Like
that was very short-lived.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Anyways, this was great. Tim stuck on for a bit. Once Upon a Time, which, you know, we need to have a Once Upon a Time chat. We need to have a Vampire Diaries chat. It'll happen eventually where we can all chat along. But
we do not.
I will go ahead and end it here since we've like way over my deadline. And I do have to work tomorrow. Oh, hey, Christina. Hi.
You say hi.
Hi.
Yeah. You look
like you one of my teachers or my substitutes?
No substitute, no teacher. Okay, I don't. We're in summertime. No school.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, somebody has to go night. So
no,
Thank you, everyone in the comments that has probably dropped off because we really went off. We were not talking about what we should have been talking about. But thank you guys. It was fun. Thank you, Christina and Megan. And we'll see ya. I'll see you tomorrow on my Loki Live. Bye.
Yeah.